It is the Tabby Cat once again. Good morning, good day, good evening, good morrow. There's some generalizations coming through the Temple of One today that I overheard in one of my many cat naps that I take. Is that of social norms or institutions of society that determine, how we sort of behave in a sense. Social norms like your status is a social norm, religion, your system of belief. Whether or not you believe in a certain religion is completely acceptable in most progressive societies today. But if you venture anywhere off the norm, then you're considered, in many respects, to be an outcast of sorts. Whatever scale you want to put on the outcast is whatever you choose to do, but either way, you are an outcast of sorts. Food is even an institution these days. Pretty weird that you would think food is an institution, but it is. The companies that produce the food aren't inclined or even supposed to put their, what they put in it, the quote-unquote nutrition facts, the ingredients, that was never required from the beginning. They could essentially put in whatever they want, but and that still goes on today. But now we can't buy just whatever food we want. Raw milk is illegal. If you somehow get the wrong seed through through the air, in other words, a lot of times seeds, that's how plants spread their genealogy, is through spreading seeds through the air by various means, or putting them in a shell, so an animal hopefully tries to eat it, take it somewhere, and then leave it alone, and then that way it gets planted, So companies like Monsanto, who basically have a inconspicuous monopoly, in other words, they own all their competitors and put their executives in positions of power at those quote-unquote competitor companies. But the organization is the same, the setup's the same, the way they function is the same, everything is the same. It's a legitimate Enron of sorts. In other words, there's still massive corruption, but it's not out there in your face. It's not like money laundering or some sort of fraud. It's literal, manipulation through force. What you learn in political science as the least effective and controlling means of manipulation is through force. Coercion being the most powerful, convincing somebody to do something that you wanted them to do anyways, but you've convinced them to do it for you. And that happens to us. We are the ones who are coerced. We the people always are the ones who are coerced into sort of placating the ruling class, because we buy into their institutions and their social norms, their standards of society. And it seems for no other reason than the fact that the elite and those in positions of power of companies, countries, whatever you want to look at, tend to lead more easygoing lifestyles. And it's through their wealth and inheritance that they necessarily don't have to work. You know, the people who make a name for themselves as philanthropists might be good people, but in and of themselves what they're doing is showing off by no other way than they just don't know how not to. So they find the best way to show off, which is fine, but let's understand what it is. It's because this person has no other means of contribution. So what do they have to do? They have to supply things with resources in order for production to happen, because the elites themselves are so incapable of production and creation that they use people who are capable of that for their own means. Now, there's some theories out there that it's an alien entity. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but it does, if you observe as a child, in other words, you sort of let go all of your pre-knowledge and start from the beginning, essentially. Extremely hard to do, but I mean, I'm not even close to that. I've probably forgotten 5% of what I should know in search of some sort of truth, but I feel like I've gained at least 15% knowledge, so the benefit outweighs the effort, I think. What was the point? Oh yeah. Yeah, just, you know, the emulation of essential laziness is what is, I feel, ruining us financially, sociologically, however you want to look at it, is this emulation of the non-industrious. Because think of it, industry needs innovation, industry needs progress, industry needs things to work better and more efficiently in order to become the best that it is, whereas anybody in the wealthy ruling class, I mean, what's the point of innovation for them beyond the ability to show off? In other words, once they're already at a status that's well above society, there's no more need for innovation, which leads back to previous speakings of, you know, the difference between all the iPhones is essentially irrelevant until you get to 4 and 5. But people, you know, flock to the stores in millions to get them. Same with all these video games. The places may be different. The scenery, sure, it's a little different. There might be, you know, a bad guy in a tree as opposed to on a mountain, but it's all the same. You know, and that's important. So remember, innovation is key. And those who tend and try to keep things as they are either extremely wealthy and don't have to do anything, or they're in a position where they're allowed to rule over other people. In other words, they're in a position of control. So they don't want things to change, because if they change, they potentially lose their position. And that's important to understand, because that was the main argument in the Temple of One today, is the importance of innovation for the everyday man, who is the key to success in the long run.